Hello, everybody. Welcome here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and to other forms of rock music. And this is going to be a bit of a lengthy one, maybe 12 minutes or 14 minutes or so. So it's Saturday. We're back to do the Battle of the Masterpiece albums. So this is kind of a war. So what I've done, for those of you who are new and haven't been following this or haven't read any of the info that I put on the info page, basically what I'm doing here is I've taken all 61 of my Masterpiece albums and put them in groups of 4 so that I have 15. With the last episode, we'll have 5 albums. I really am trying to see how these albums stack up against each other. Are they really in the order that I put them in when I did my 25 greatest albums of all time, which I did, I think it's maybe 2 or 3 years ago now. I can't remember how long ago it was, but it was a while. And a lot of these albums that we're doing in this series have been Masterpiece albums with me since the early 80s. I think there's at that time I started the Masterpiece album thing with my friend, and we both had our own set and we compared them and we decided these are the Masterpiece albums. And so for about 3 or 4 years there, from probably 1980 to maybe 83 or 84, we would add new albums to it. And actually, I think we took some off too. I can't remember exactly. But anyways, by the time that era was over, I probably had 40 or more Masterpiece albums. So when I revisited this thing in the 2000s, and then even more so now, since the channel started, I started saying, when I revisited in 2000, 2001, I thought there's a lot of these albums that are definitely not Masterpiece albums. So I think I took a good 30 of them out of there. Not 30, sorry. I think I left about 30 in there. I took about 10 or 12 out of there. Almost the entire Kiss collection, with the exception of Alive and Ace Frehley's solo, and I think maybe Hotter Than Hell, but then eventually I took that one out too. So anyway, so now we're down to where I have 61 in my list. Many of them have come on since the turn of the century. And then, of course, there's a bunch that are going to be getting to this fairly soon, probably in August, September, when I usually do it. There's going to be some new ones that were the new ones that came out when I started the channel will now be eligible for my Masterpiece. So anyways, the goal of this was to see if the album that I thought was the best of their album of all time is still the best album of all time, or my favorite of all time. So that has been Styx's Pieces of 8 has been my favorite album for about 5 years now, taking over from Just a Game. Both fantastic albums. So I want to see if it's still the case. So I've been listening to all of them. So today we have 4 more. I picked these all randomly. So I did a kind of a dice roll to get them all into their perspective band times, what they're going to fight, who's going to fight who, and I tried to keep it I did in the first round, so that no one band had 2 albums in the same battle. I wanted to keep that clear. I didn't want 2 Rush albums fighting each other or 2 Yes albums fighting each other, at least not in the first round. If it gets that way now after that, then that's the way it gets. So the 4 I've chosen today, or the 4 that are on the battle today, are AC/DC's Back in Black, Styx's Grand Illusion, Rush's A Farewell to Kings, and Yes's Close to the Edge. So this is a monumental battle. All of these albums, of course, are masterpieces, so it's going to be tough in every band war, but this particular one is really it was quite tough. Most of the albums I just said, in fact, all of them have suffered severe burnout over the years because I played them so much, right? And there's nothing can be done about that. If you play something so much that it's burned out, it's just the way it is. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's not an album you like a lot. Just don't want to hear it as much as you used to. For a couple of these, I haven't listened to them for a few years, so it was kind of a refresher. I actually found myself enjoying a couple of them quite a bit. So we're going to start from the bottom up. So we're going to go with AC/DC first. Back in Black. This is so AC/DC released the album Highway to Hell, which put them on the international scene, made them one of the big bands in the world, really put them on the map. This album just blew the lid off of that. Just blew the lid off. Sold 40 million copies, so 40 million people cannot be wrong about this album. The album's different than a lot of their earlier stuff, other than the fact that they have a different singer on this album. So Bon Scott died after Highway to Hell and was replaced a month after his death by Brian Johnson, who does the vocals on this album. I prefer Bon Scott. He's one of my favorite singers. But Brian Johnson is not a slouch by any means and may have fit this bill really well. So this band, up until this point, I think most people thought them as a rock and roll band. And that's the way I still think of them. But a lot of people started thinking of them as a metal band when this came out, or a very hard rock band. So this album is quite a bit heavier than their earlier stuff. Once again, absolutely killer riffs and hooks throughout this entire album. Some of these songs, at least three of them anyways, Hell's Bells, Back in Black, and You Shook Me All Night Long, all had extensive radio play. Some of the other songs that had a lot of radio play early on, Shoot to Thrill, What Do You Do for Money, Honey, Giving the Dog a Bone, Have a Drink on Me. All these ones got a fair bit of, and then the other songs sporadically. So I think now basically it's Hell's Bells, Back in Black, and You Shook Me All Night Long, which pretty much get the radio airplay now. I like this a lot. It's like every AC/DC album, or at least like most of the AC/DC albums that I've listened to. You cannot listen to it without getting into it, without jumping around and singing and doing everything and doing the air guitar part. Yeah, it's a hard album to avoid that with. So released in 1980, so now 45 years have passed, but still really strong album. I found myself thinking this was going to be extremely burned out because I played it so damn much. But there is some stuff here that still catches me. You Shoot the Thrill. What Do You Do for Money, Honey? And of course, Back in Black, which are the songs that I like, Giving the Dog a Bone. These ones all still resonate with me fairly strongly. The other stuff, maybe not so much, maybe overkill, especially You Shook Me All Night Long. Really, really overkill in a lot of ways. But absolutely killer. I think Highway to Hell put them in amongst the big bands. This album shoots them to the top. I think they may be the band of the bands that are still out there playing albums, they may be the biggest. I don't know if they're the best or my favorite, but they may be the biggest band in the world as far as rock goes anyways. So that's the first one, AC/DC. The second one, Styx's Grand Illusion. I thought this would be much more burned out for me than it was. I remember I stopped listening to this years ago because it suffered severe burnout, and it never really came back to me. And it's especially bad now because where I work, Come Sail Away is on the radio. They have a playlist that they play in the place. They play it all day long, and you might hear Come Sail Away 5 times if you're out there. Just don't ever want to hear the tune again. But surprisingly, the rest of the album has held up fairly well for me. I'm actually quite surprised. A couple things about this album. It was one of my first albums that I purchased or had listened to extensively after my Kiss era. So this came out a little bit during that Kiss era, but I didn't get it until maybe a year or two later. Actually, my friend got it first. He got a gold copy of it, and then I eventually got it myself. This band, for me, is number one when it comes to harmony vocals. I just don't think there's anybody that is close to them. There's some bands that are really good harmony vocals, but I think these guys are the best, especially in this time period. Some great stuff on here. Grand Illusion, really catchy. Still a great song. Cranked it right up when it came on. Fooling Yourself, really good too. Superstars, never was a big, huge fan of that song, but I do like it. Come Sail Away, I think initially was probably my favorite Styx song. And I still like it. I just never want to hear it again. I've heard it too much. It's just dead for me. Miss America, that's a killer tune, and really one of the main reasons I think of this band as a hard rock band as opposed to a prog rock band. Some people would say they're proggy. They do have prog elements in the music, but I've always kind of thought of them as a hard rock stage arena oriented band. Really good though. Then you've got their two songs towards the end of the album, Man in the Wilderness and Castle Walls, which are both very proggy and maybe the most proggy songs they have. This is a strong, strong album. And I think it was released in 77, so it's a little bit earlier than The Back in Black. The third album on this list, also released in 77, is Rush's A Farewell to Kings. At one time, this would have been a much stronger album, but it's kind of faded over time. Too much overkill played. I mean, the side one of this album, A Farewell to Kings and Xanadu, I've probably played that side one of this album more than any other album I've ever owned. So those may be that may be the most played rock album side in my history. The other side, Close to the Heart, Cinderella Man, Mad Rigel, Cygnus X1. They've both had their little runs with me over the history of the album. None of them are really up there anymore. They kind of burned out, all of them. Cinderella Man for a long time was right in there with Farewell to Kings and Xanadu. Cygnus X1 it's more of a song I've listened to in much later years, like maybe 20 years had gone by before I really started to get into that song, but I do like it a lot. So it's a strong album as well. And then, of course, the final one, Close to the Edge, absolute perfection. I even like the cover, and I like the inside cover even more. Even though it only has 3 songs on there, there is no weak songs here. There's no weak moments on this album, really. All 3 of these songs are among my favorite Yes songs. If I was doing a top 10 Yes list, I'm sure all 3 of them are on it. Close to the Edge is an absolute next to perfect song. I love all the different parts in here. Probably my favorite part in here is the keyboard solo by Rick Wakeman. Although it's not as strong as some of his other keyboard solos, it's really memorable. It's one of my favorites. I do like it probably even more than the Roundabout solo, or even maybe in the Awakening solo. Yeah, just fantastic stuff. And of course, Steve Howe, great here. John Anderson's voice is perfect, of course. And the bass tone on here is really quite amazing. I do like this is the final album with Bill Bruford, and he is just such a complex deliverer of all kinds of different drum sounds. I just love this guy. This is probably my favorite album by Yes. If you see my Yes ranking of the Yes albums, it's going to be number 1. Very hard to supplant this album on any day. So having said all that about these 4 albums, I love them all. This one was quite difficult because I expected them to be all terribly burned out. A couple of them weren't as burned out as I thought. So I'm going to rank them now for you. So coming in at number 4, might surprise people, it's A Farewell to Kings. Primary reason why it's ranking 4th here is because it's a good chunk of this album is just burned right out. And A Farewell to Kings is still a song I love to listen to. Xanadu, of course, is a near perfection. The other 4 songs, some days I like it. Some days I don't really want to listen to it much. It's not an album I go back to much anymore, although I did listen to it a lot at one time. Obviously, if Farewell to Kings and Xanadu are the most listened to tracks, but it's going to come here 4th. Edging it out fairly easily, I think, too, Back in Black. I think it's just because I haven't listened to this for a while, and it's a highly energizing album. So it's going to come here at number 3 for pretty much all the reasons I've already said. Riff master Malcolm Young. Nothing more to be said there. So this next one was really tight. And I wouldn't have picked this either. I wouldn't have picked this battle for the top spot for these two, because the Grand Illusion album was kind of very burned out for me for a long time. It wasn't even a top 30 album for me for a while, but it's really made some headway back. But it's going to come here number 2, not because I think it's not as burned out as Close to the Heart, Close to the Edge. It's just there's a few songs on here, the grand finale, and Superstars, which I'm not crazy about. I don't think they're perfect songs. The rest of the stuff is good, and Come Sail Away is burned out too. So that's why it got the second spot. And so the win will be Close to the Heart, Close to the Edge. Primarily because there is no weak moments on this album, and every time I listen to it, I hear something different. And it's always been my favorite Yes album, even though it's kind of suffering from that burnout syndrome more so than usual. It wasn't enough of a burnout to knock it off of the podium. So Close to the Edge will go on to the next round, with Styx coming, Grand Illusion coming second, Back in Black third, and A Farewell to Kings in fourth. So anyways, I hope that you enjoyed this episode of Masterpiece Album Battles, and we will be back next Saturday with another episode of Masterpiece Album Battles. So please hit the like, subscribe, and any comments you want to make about any of the albums or anything I've said, you can put that. If you want to rank them yourself, you can do that as well. Anyways, take care and have a good one. Goodbye.